looking forward to learning more about his background, his journey, basically how he can guide some of the new people coming in on the same kind of pathway, or what would be relevant for them from their agriculture college days to otherwise what new skills they should probably acquire to uh, follow that path. And as far as everybody else is concerned, just a quick announcement. Through Garze Marathi Group, we will be planning some workshops coming up soon. Anand will help send the message out about how you can sign up, which groups might be relevant for you. We are working on a document for that. And hopefully we'll see you all again in a month's time frame through our workshops. With that, I would like to hand it over to Avinash.
थँक यू व्हेरी मच अश्विन. थँक यू आनंदजी. नमस्कार सगळ्यांना. मला वाटतं बरेच महाराष्ट्रीयन आहेत, त्यामुळे मराठी थोडं 2 शब्द बोलून घेतो. तर नमस्कार सगळ्यांना. सिंगापूरवरनं बोलतोय आणि लेट मी शेअर माय स्क्रीन नाव.
Avinash, just a quick update that we may have international audience, so just to keep that in mind.
And the thing is that all queries,
sure. No, I will speak in English.
Yeah, questions can be put in chat.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you very much. Again, I will speak in English. Anyway, I just wanted to say a few words in Marathi just to test my Marathi as well, and ensure everyone that in spite of 30 years, I haven't forgotten Marathi. I speak every single day. So I think today is about my journey in agriculture. I currently work for BASF in Singapore, and I purposely kept the title as a journey because of 2 reasons. I wanted to share my personal experiences in agriculture, as I have traveled and I have lived abroad for the last 30 years. At the same time, keeping connection with India always. And secondly, I think it's not an advice session or anything. I don't have too much of an advice, but during my journey, I'm going to share with you lots of nuggets that I have picked up. And if any of these can be helpful for any of us, I think that's would be the purpose of this talk from my end. So let me go ahead and start with where I started and how the whole thing is. So I'm born in Mumbai, 1968. So that's my birthplace, Jogeshwari, in Mumbai. Then I studied in Mumbai as well until my secondary education. And then I went to College of Agriculture, Dapoli. Now it is called Balasaheb Sawant Konkan Krishi Vidyapith in 1985. There were not many people actually studying agriculture at that point in time, especially from Mumbai. It was, I mean, during my time, it was all about civil engineering, mechanical engineering, becoming a doctor. Those were kind of streams that everyone was interested in. Now, the reason I studied agriculture was, since my childhood, every summer, I went to my uncle's farm. It is near Dapoli in Konkan, and I helped my uncle do lots of things. He had just bought a 7-acre farm. There was no electricity. It was a jungle. So I basically helped him, digging the canals, building a house, planting trees, lots of things. And that's what got me really fascinated towards agriculture. And I decided to then study agriculture. So 1991, I finished my master's in horticulture from there. And then between 91 to 93, as that time was the norm, I started with a company called Cyanamid, and I went to sales role. I was in Nanded for 2 years, but these 2 years taught me a lot, actually. And I still remember my very first day in the field with farmers. I passed with flying colors. I was gold medalist at the college, and I knew I had lots of academic background, but actually going to the field and conducting my first farmer meeting, I felt like fish out of the water. So this is something, always I keep in mind, that the knowledge not only resides in the boardrooms, but it's always in the field. Then in 1993, I moved to UK. I joined another company called United Phosphorus UPL Limited. And fortunately for me, there was an opportunity to go to UK. And there I did lots and lots of things: regulatory affairs, business development, sales, product management. My territory here was, I traveled that time all the way to Russia. So I was based in England, but my territory was Russia, all Eastern European countries, Yugoslavia, Romania, Poland, Bulgaria. These were the countries I traveled at that point in time. And everything was without a cell phone. There were no mobile phones available at that point in time freely. But I had absolutely no angst or anything traveling there. Now, if you ask me to go there without a mobile phone, I may not. Then after that, I moved to US in 2001. I spent 10 years in the US, first with the same company, UPL, looking after marketing for entire US. And then I joined BASF. After that, I'm in BASF. Then the journey, I moved to Germany. I was in a global strategic marketing for 5-6 years. And then since 2016, I am in Singapore. Now this, if you ask me, did I plan everything in my life? I said, no, I just took the opportunities as they come. I've been very fortunate enough. And that's what I'm going to share today as to why I could travel around the world, what I have seen, what I have learned in agriculture. The storyline today is really talking about the common thread among the worldwide farmers. And I here can proudly say, except Africa, I have actually lived in many, many places, and I have interacted with those farmers. So I would tell a few things about that. Then I would focus a bit more on current trends and opportunities. Then we will talk specifically about customers, values and perspectives, and then some success factors. Now, going to the common thread, worldwide farmers. This photo I took 2 years ago when I was in UP. This is a potato farmer in UP. So very nice. When we had a farmer meeting, this person was very, very anxiously listening to what we were saying. One of my hobbies also is a photography, so I use my own photographs wherever I can. So what are the common threads in the worldwide farmers? I don't know how many of us see sun rise every single day. I mean, I didn't see it during 6 years of my hostel life. And as many times, even today, I don't see a sunrise. But this is one thing a true farmer always sees. We won't find farmers for meetings after sunrise. I mean, I have conducted meetings in India. I have conducted meetings, let's say in Australia or Europe or everywhere, United States. If you want to meet farmers, it has to be for a breakfast at 6:30 in the morning. That's when you meet the farmers, and that's where they are willing to talk to you, because once the sun rises, I think they want to go to their field and they want to work. And that's one common thing. The second thing, what we need to also remember, and I think this forum going forward will also coach some entrepreneurs over here. And this is a very important point for everyone to note. A farmer is the probably only entrepreneur in this world who buys everything retail, but then sell the produce wholesale. We might argue that, look, I mean, there are many businesses who buy retail and sell wholesale. But if you look at a farmer, I think literally every single thing has to be bought from retailer and then selling the produce commodities in the wholesale. Now, this is changing. We will talk about those trends a bit later. But that's really a sad part what I always see. The third common thing for the farmers worldwide is farmers really do operate the most unpredictable, at the same time, largest operation in the world. We cannot argue that agriculture today still is the largest industry in the world. And the farmer as such, there are so many things that can go wrong every single day based on weather. That's the one, the prices, input prices, everything can be changing, and then the commodity prices also fluctuate. So you invest a lot of things for 4 to 5 months expecting, and many times if you're in a horticultural crops, you're investing for many years for the returns, and things are very unpredictable. Yeah, there is no 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen becoming H2O in farming still today. But this also is changing with the digitalization, and we will talk about that. So those are the common threads, what I found in my travels worldwide. Now going a bit into the current trends and opportunities. Here I wanted to cover 4 points. One is the evolution of agriculture, talking about mega trends that we should watch. We'll talk about some disruptors and some opportunities. This picture is taken in China 3 years ago. I traveled extensively to China, and this is the drone from one of the companies called DJI. This has a 15-liter tank, and this drone is widely used in China for spraying crop protection chemicals, but fertilizers and everything else as well. Now, coming to the industry trends, I'm going to refer a little bit to BASF as well, the company I work for. Why I wanted to bring a little bit of a corporate flavor here, non-confidentially, is also for all of us to know how the big corporations are looking at agriculture. What are those trends which are being looking at? And then our whole innovation, our whole go-to-market strategy is based on this. Yeah. Number one, I think a stricter global regulatory and environmental regulations. I mean, regulatory part is getting more and more complex. Complex to an extent, many of us have heard now about the European policy, yeah, farm to fork policy. By 2030, they want to change so many things. Basically cut down the use of chemicals by 50%. There are lots and lots of things in Europe which are happening. One might argue that, look, Europe always has been very conservative, and so what? Yeah, that's my opinion as well. But I was very, very surprised when I look at the policy from China about keeping the chemical use zero after 2020, looking at the carbon footprint, how to reduce carbon footprint, even China. Last year, countries like Thailand, countries like Vietnam came with the policies, or even countries like Myanmar, which surprised us. Yeah. So again, there is a lot of change which is coming, and now the change, in my opinion, is not just limited to looking at Europe and US, what they do, and then follow in Asia. I think there are going to be a lot of change which is happening from within here in Asia Pacific as well. Increased demand for quality food and sustainable farming practices. When I was growing up in 1968, I remember we did not have a refrigerator at home. Our family, we come from a lower middle class family. My father was a school teacher, so we could afford 3 meals a day, and that's what it's about it. We never asked about the quality of the food. We were concerned basically to get the food first in the first place. But now with the rising middle class, and now today I will focus more on Asia Pacific, we are seeing the demand for quality food. Now, I cannot talk for day-to-day life in Mumbai or Pune or Nagpur, or for that matter, anywhere in India. But I see when I visit India, when I talk to people, that people are demanding for a quality. Now, just to have a watermelon or a pineapple is not good enough. Yeah, quality is being demanded because there is a money to pay for it. And secondly, I think there is a section of the consumers who are also asking for, look, hey, where is my food coming from? Is it coming from a sustainable farming practices? This trend already has been there in the Western world, but it's now happening more in Asia Pacific as well. Increasing farm automation and mechanization here. I think Dr. Soman talked about it, yeah, in his last thing also, how he is building those robots, but this is happening fast and furious. If you today look at the automation, and I will refer a lot of time to China today, because in my opinion, many of us have learned about China through the media, and I've been traveling to China, even the smaller villages and places for agriculture. And what I see China is completely different, so advanced that we have not seen ourselves. So this is the trend which is going on. Precision farming today, drones, one example. Today, China are roughly 20 million hectares of application of fertilizers or of chemicals is already done by drones, 20 million hectares, which was roughly 0 4 years ago. So extremely, extremely advanced way how countries are progressing there. Emerging service sector for farm management. There are lots and lots of services which are being offered right now today. Many of us know that in Australia, just picking a country from Asia Pacific, nothing happens without a consultant. And this consultant advises farmer as to what to do and what not to do. Now, this is slowly being replaced by algorithms. This is slowly being replaced by the services, which not only go only to the extent of advice, but now there is a next trend which is going to happen, is saying, look, I advise you, I charge you so much, and you pay me only if my advice would come true. So people are going to even now go to that extent about guaranteeing something on the farm. And that's a very, very big trend that we will see. Online sales, disrupting distribution channels. COVID-19 helped a lot doing this. Today morning, I saw only one article on the LinkedIn about the Sahyadri farms somewhere in Pune, where they are now selling lots of farm produce directly to the consumers. And their biggest appeal is, look, traceability. You will know exactly where your food comes from. And at the same time, you can buy directly from me. There is no need for middleman. Now, this online sales, just to give another example, China, on the other hand, this China economy today is completely digital. Whenever I travel China, I still have some of my old RMBs. Whenever I take out my cash in China, people laugh at me because China is a cashless economy. If you have a WeChat and WeApp today, you can do lots of things. You can do everything in China with your just app. So online is already far, far advanced in China. The last trend what we should watch about is protectionism measures affecting international trade. US-China trade war we all have seen this year. We also have seen about some policies from government of India as well, about Make in India initiative. We have seen policies from Thailand and Vietnam not exporting few things when they need. So this will go on as well. So as an industry, the reason for me sharing this slide is that to bring a perspective as to when companies like BASF or, for example, Syngentas or let's say John Deere or other companies, when they're looking at what are those trends which are going to happen, these are the trends which are being closely watched. So Ashwin, you have to keep me on time. I'm being marketeer. I think my problem is I keep talking. Yeah, so
no problem at all. I'll let you know.
15-minute warning would be great.
Absolutely.
Now, the future farming shaped by disruptive innovations. I think some of these I already talked about. Drones. This is an area to watch for, I think, in India also. And I think that I know there are many people on the phone who know India and the policies and what's going to happen very well in India. So excuse me if I'm telling something which is already happening. But for example, drones is one area I have seen there is no still an approval from government of India. And this drone technology is going to change farming. How many of you have tried to apply a fertilizer or spray a rice field 1 hectare? I have done that myself. And once you do that, I bet you will hate to go into that field once again. 40, 45 degrees centigrade, muddy field, you can hardly move in the field, and then you are applying things. Drone can apply a fertilizer, drone can apply a chemical for 1 hectare in 15 minutes. And you imagine swarms of these drones, which already are commissioned in China. Yeah. So this has changed completely. Drones also are used for surveillance, scouting what's going on in the farm as well.
Just a minute, I'll check. Somebody has switched on.
Yeah.
Please mute yourself. Yeah, okay. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The second part is about robotics. Yeah, I mean, this part, I think Dr. Soman also explained last time, so I wouldn't go much in there. But I think the labor shortage is not the thing now only to talk about in a PowerPoint presentations. I think it's a real life thing. No one really wants to do this work. So more and more robotics, I think this will be in the farm. And if you look at companies like non-ag companies are investing a lot into agriculture, realizing that this is one of the final frontiers where you can disrupt many things, where you can replace labor there. Farm sensors are very common. I will share one example later, which may surprise some of you, but I will not go in detail. And the blockchain, I think this technology, I'm not an expert to talk about here, but what I know that you can trace your food, and this is going to be a phenomenal way in when we go forward. When people say, look, I need to know where my food comes from. The second trend is vertical indoor farming. Again, last week only, Dr. Godge talked about it. So many of us who attended this, we know this is going to be another disruptive innovation coming. And last but not least, what we're looking at is also cell-cultured meat. Cell-cultured meat is, I mean, there are, per my information, there are 2 countries currently who allow stem cell research. I think one is Singapore, the other one is the US. I think Singapore is more advanced. Singapore also launched cell-cultured chicken, actually, I think few months ago over here. So I'm vegetarian, so I don't know how it tests. But personally, I think if the cell-cultured meat will pick up, we really need to, at the one hand, worry about what is going to happen to all those corn and soybeans and all the feedstocks, because 60–70% of agriculture really depends on that today. But on the other hand, I think it might also help the world in a different way, that there would be so many hectares of farmland that can be converted to forests or can be converted to something else if this would pick up. And again, the CRISPR gene editing technologies. The one thing I would like to say that Europe, the way Europe is very conservative on GMOs and all other things. But recently, I think one of the French ministers, he made a kind of a comment that this technology, gene editing, CRISPR in this area may not be considered as GM. Yeah, so this is something to know. I wanted to talk to you a bit on the BASF, and it's not promoting BASF, but I wanted to relate all those things and how corporates are investing into the future. Yeah, and this is an example of BASF, but if you look at Syngentas, or if you look at Bayer's, or if you look at many companies, yeah, John Deere's, everyone would have some pledge in these areas going forward. Climate smart farming. This is going to be the driver from now on. Yeah, CO2 emission for per kilo of crop produce is a big concern over here, and it is important that everyone makes farmers to be more carbon efficient. In fact, I think it will go, and it's already happening in many places, that farmers and organizations will have carbon credits which can be traded. It would be like a currency. Then talking about sustainable solutions here, sustainability can be defined in many ways. I think we defined sustainability saying that, look, it has to be economical, ecological, and the environmental. Yeah, all these things have to be balanced in the sustainable farming. But the point is, every company is organization is trying to be more sustainable, making a commitment that we will invest into technologies which are going to be more and more sustainable. That is the trend we are going to see, which is going to be the driver for innovation. Digital farming, 400 million hectares, that's BASF's pledge, yeah, to be supported with the digital technologies. Now, this is happening fast and furious. If I would say the one trend that is happening now and it's going to have a glacial effect in next 3 to 4 years is the digital farming. You don't need to really walk your field to know what is going on. Everything can be done through satellite data, infrared imagery, scouting drones, sensors in the field, building the algorithms. There is so much data available out there. It's happening right now. Yeah. And the last but not least about the smart stewardship. India, coming specific to India, I think 2 years ago, there were incidences whereby many farmers, I think in the cotton area in the Yavatmal district, many farmers died through the exposure to some of the pesticides over here. I think BASF as a company, and for that matter, all the industry is looking to basically train farmers on these aspects over here. And I think the commitment is zero farming incidences. Again, this is the sustainability. My takeaway from this slide is, you look at the industry, in agriculture industry, sustainability would be one of the biggest drivers in the coming years. And this will drive a lot of way we farm today, and also will open up lots of opportunities. Talking about how the farming has been from 1930s to 2030, yeah, with horse driven in Europe, not bullock driven, but I think here then the green revolution, then came precision farming very early in 90s in the US, in Europe as well. Then it became more of personalized farming. Now, the future trend we think is going to be robotic and AI farming. So I think the farmer visiting actually the farm would be very little over here. Everything can be done through a control room. I think Anand, I think, was himself an entrepreneur, so he knows, I think, the manufacturing, you don't need to be on a plant now. Unlike earlier, it can be done from a control room. So that's how the agricultural evolved. For us, at least compared to India, I want to see that we are in a different phases. Yeah? In many of the places, for example, in the north, when you go, in my opinion, I think we are already into this precision farming, big tractor machinery, part of the things over there. I think in some places we are still in this phase, yeah, 1950 to 1970s. What we can learn from how things have happened, evolved in the other parts of the world will be very interesting, and how we can apply. And I'm a deep believer here that we really don't need to go through each and every stage. I think India has an opportunity and will definitely jump from this phase over here. Let me take my pointer. Yeah, from the precision farming directly to robotic and AI farming. Just like in China, email never existed as such. Yeah, China jumped straight away from cell phone to a smartphone. No email in between, and we can do that too in India. Now, coming to Asia Pacific, and why I see after 20, or I would say 26 years working outside, and originally from Asia, I came back to Asia, and I look at Asia here. I mean, we do have 60% of the world population, but I think only 30% of the world's arable land. So, for example, food security, we all know that the governments can be toppled in Asia Pacific if there is no food. So there will be new technologies happening in all fronts, increasing yield, environmental impact, farmer safety, traceability, and nutritional value of food, you name it. Again, going back to a bit of a corporate slide, I'm trying to blend it in just to marry not only what is happening out there, but how then the corporations are looking at it. Now, if you look at the BASF strategy here, agriculture, and again, I say this will be very different from many other companies, there are clear trends. First of all, the industry is now saying, look, this is the era of customized innovation and customized marketing for a customer. I think many a times in many industries, the customer was kind of not forgotten, but was not paid attention to. Was saying, look, if I make a product and if it is great, I think the customer will buy it. I think now the things are changing because the customer is getting a very specific offer, a very specific experience with the company, and that is changing a lot for people as well. So I think customer in the center is coming back, and I think rightfully so. Innovation, I think all companies would do, but I think, again, not just come out with something innovation, tailored to the customers. So it's not like Henry Ford when he came out with his Ford T model. I think he said, look, I mean, the customers, I give you a lot of choice on color. You can choose any color as long as it is black. That was what the first advertisement said. You can choose any color as long as it is black, because there was a monopoly. Today, I think things are changing, and now the marketing is moving towards more customized offers. Just think about your inboxes, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and anywhere, how you are getting those offers, which are very tailor-made, specific for you. Digital is the second pillar where I think companies are investing a lot to be ready. Sustainability, we talked about it. Customer experience, we talked. People, yeah. I mean, people, this is a very important angle. Many times I consider myself outdated in today's industry, especially when it comes to digital, when it comes to thinking how the world is going to change. A 25-year-old can think a lot more relevant as how the world will look like in 20 years than I can do. It's just because the way we are thinking. So there is more and more focus in the industry today is to upgrade the people, not only in terms of skills, but in terms of thinking. I think this is the important part. And then, of course, portfolio, and then last but not least, operations. In COVID-19 times, we all saw the supply chains which were dependent on China or on certain countries were not very efficient. So there is a lot of push happening in the operations area as well. Coming a bit to customers. So Ashwin, how am I doing on time?
We're okay. We still have 25 minutes to go.
Okay, good. So then I move forward. Going to customers, value and perspective. As I said, I think customers are becoming, again, more and more important. They were always, but I think the realization that everything should start and end with the customer is coming back. This picture I took in a typical, this is China. It's our team in China. I travel a lot. I just wanted to show you something. So what does really customer centricity mean here? We talked a lot about in the corporate things here. Is it the customized offers? It is the authenticity and trust. Of course, I think customized offers are very, very important. I cannot today just make an offer and say, look, this is for all the customers. Segmentation, who needs what when, what else can go along with my offer that may be required by the customer. I mean, all these things are currently being talked about more and more widely. Yeah. Authenticity of the offer, and this is my personal experience, and the trust. Yeah. Agriculture, especially, we are not in a commodity business. I always felt like agriculture is a business of relationships. You are playing with someone's crop, and the crop is treated by a farmer as a child. And similarly, how mothers will treat their child, I think the farmers are treating their farm and their produce. So the trust and authenticity is paramount. If we cheat once, or if we lose that trust, I think it's,
वो भी उनमें उनको जब पता चला तभी इन लोग ये जेनेटिकल अपना जो ये हो गया था ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन.
Hello Sandeep, can you mute yourself? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think that's I was talking about authenticity and trust. I think that is very important over here. If you lose a trust once, I think then it's gone. It's true in all the businesses, but more so in the farming businesses. I have seen many times whereby a sales rep with a false commitment can get into so much trouble that can get locked up also in the villages. Yeah. So that's important here. I'm going to share one story which is slightly off radar over here, but the customer and the competition here. And this is from my experience living in Germany. Yeah, I talked with Anand about this once. And as we are all in the business, I want to say in Germany, I lived in a very small village. This village had only 4,000 people. And there are many villages like that over there. And I think what is happening in Germany, which I like the system, there was one baker, there was a couple of barbers, there were 2 doctors, there were 2 wineries, there were few people, businesses, and each business was thriving very well. So for example, when I talked about wineries, the wine is very famous, Riesling in Germany. When someone would open a new winery, then someone would start a new business on supplies, because you need lots and lots of things to supply to the wineries. Then I think someone would invest into logistics of that one. So that's how the businesses were done. And everyone was keeping the ultimate customer in the mind. And the customer in the mind would be consumer like me. Yeah. Now just imagine the same situation happening in India. Yeah, if someone would start a business about wineries, I think 50 other people would start only the same business. No one will make money, because end of the day, you are not thinking about, you are thinking not about customer, you are thinking about how to compete with the business over there. In Germany, the things are done differently. How they build this entire trust and the value chain is saying, look, ultimate thing is to serve to the customer. Now let's build complementary businesses. A lot to learn from that example. Sorry to digress a little bit, but couldn't not afford not to share this example.
Good.
Yeah. Secondly is answering why. All of us have read Simon Sinek's book as to why, but I have been talking about this why a long time, even before I read Simon Sinek's book. And this I really attribute to my upbringing. I think at least in our Indian philosophy, somehow I felt like we always have this question, nirvana, why we do things, why are we here? So I think it's ingrained in us. But the example I want to share with you is that when we do something, let's ask this question, why? And let's not just stop there. And for me, this design thinking principles, which I came across a few months ago, someone was giving a seminar on this one, I think really appealed to me, is that design thinking is always about, and I wrote it down here, is starts with empathy. Yeah. So when you ask a question, why, and you understand why, I think you must empathize first with that one. You just don't say it's another problem. Then you define the problem. Then you ideate, you prototype. And then when you take your prototype to test, be detached from that prototype. Don't just try to listen or hear selectively what you want to hear. Many times, if the prototype is criticized and if it is not good, you need to get back to the drawing board and do something that will really make it suitable and reasonable for the customers. Again, sharing an example. This person shared an example on design thinking, how it is done. So it was about, wheelchair supplies to an old home over there. And then this person went to the old home, and then he started asking, and why do you want a wheelchair? What kind of wheelchair do you want? And then they said, yeah, we always look outside our window. We are all old. There is a garden over there. We would all like to go there, but we never do that. And then the story goes on like that. This person starts thinking why, and end of the day, he comes to the conclusion that it is not about wheelchair, and it's not about these people wanting to go out to that garden. This was all about meeting people who were out there. They saw lots of children playing. They saw lots of families out there. And the desire behind going out was not just sit on the wheelchair and go and sit in the garden. That would be equally frustrating, but they wanted to interact with people. Again, when you have this design thinking and when you empathize with the problem, suddenly I think you come up with a different purpose as to why certain things are happening. I move on to the quality and brand, very, very paramount. I think the brand in marketing, we talk a lot about it, about the brand loyalty. Many people say the loyalty costs 1 cent, I think, but I even though I agree with that, the value of that 1 cent is very, very high. Especially in markets like Asia Pacific, I think where there is a lot of counterfeit on many, many different things. I think the brand is very important. Today, BASF has become an excellent brand in the marketplace, and for that matter, Bayer, for that matter, other companies, because what people think when they buy something, and oh, it's a German quality. Yeah? There is something associated with the word German and a quality. And that's how it becomes a brand. I mean, in our businesses also, I always say we need to really look at how we can build that brand. And it shouldn't just be built because I want to make more money. I think brand is about a customer really trusting in your value proposition. When we talk about customers and value proposition, the next thing I said is, we always look at the unique selling point or unique value proposition. This is very important, all of us, we know that. But many a times we forget to identify this value proposition for the entire value chain. I give an example of myself. In my work day to day, I'm always thinking about farmers. What solutions farmers need, how we can bring this to them. And once we bring out, we say, look, now how can I attract a farmer to really try the new idea? Many times our ideas fail even though our product is excellent. And the reason for that is, to reach to 500 million farmers, I cannot talk to each and every farmer. So I have to go through certain distributors, some retailers, some consultants. And many times we forget to define the value proposition for these guys, because it has to be something in it for them as well. If there is nothing in it for them, the product will not launch successfully. So again, I want to bring this, that we need to think about this value proposition for entire value chain. And last but not least, I mean, my principle has been I travel extensively in Asia Pacific, and whenever I travel, I may be the only marketeer, vice president. I don't spend more than 10% of the time in head offices. I don't believe, I mean, I like presentations, but these could be pre-reads. For me, it's very important going out like this, what I've shown, because you get a lot of windscreen time with people. You can talk to retailers. You see the actual life on the farm, how it is. So that's my perspective on customers and everything. Now, why it wouldn't move? Yes.
Avinash, just to give you a
Yeah.
heads up,
Yeah.
now we are at about 15 minutes to go now.
Perfect. I think then I'm pacing myself fine. Thank you, Ashwin. So here, I just, the 4 pictures, these are my own pictures, and there is a story behind all this, wanted to share with you. The first picture is from Korea. And if you look at all these farmers in Korea, all the farmers' average age in Korea is 67 years, 67 to 72, the same thing in Japan. Yeah. So that's the farmer segment we deal with in Japan. So our innovations in Japan are more based on more of a convenience to the farmers, how we can reduce the burden for them. This is a completely different segment over there. Down here, I think these are Thai farmers. We can closely relate to farmers in India as well. Most of the demos being done here like that. Now this farmer over here, and I'll come to the picture later. This was a picture I took in 2013, I believe, 13 or 12. This guy over here, you see, he farms 25,000 hectares in Mato Grosso in Brazil, this farmer. He spent the entire day with us, despite being, you know, such a big farmer. He has his own 2 Cessna planes because he cannot get from one place to another without flying. But looking at him, I found he talks so passionately about farming, like a 1 hectare grower or 1 acre grower in Indonesia would talk about it. Very exciting. Now, this guy has a very, very big enterprise, but it's all connected. So he farms corn and soybeans and cotton, but he has all integrated system on the farm. He has cotton ginning. He has a, you know, oil extraction machines on the farm. He has his own poultry. He has his pigs and all those things. So a big farmer. I was fortunate to meet this guy over there in Brazil. And I asked him the question. I said, look, I mean, you're farming so much, 25,000 hectares. It's a huge risk if something would go wrong. Why are you doing this? And he always said, look, I mean, I love farming. There is only one thing. Of course, I make money on this one, but I think the reason I'm in farming is because I love farming. The picture on the top, I talked about China, and sorry if I don't want to talk any political, and I'm not a pro-China or anything, so don't get me wrong, but I think which are good things, we should talk about it. I've traveled to China at least 20 times in last 4 years. Yeah? And I've traveled all the way up to the north to many places, Xinjiang province, and I've been to Harbin place, I've been to south, I've been to Anhui. I have met almost every type of farmer. And trust me, the agriculture in China is extremely advanced. We cannot even compare as to what is there in India, what is there in Indonesia, what is there. Just one example, this is from north of China. North of China, they have big farms, comparable to what we have in Russia or Brazil or United States. You know, farm sizes could be 2,000 hectares many times, or all farms are 40, 50, 400 to 500 hectares. This facility has been built by the government of China. You know, and they showed me going there. This is the control room. And from this control room, you can actually pinpoint to a single rice plant in 150 kilometer radius. They have sensors everywhere built with the satellite imagery, with the sensors and everything. Each and every plant in 150 kilometer radius can be pinpointed. A farmer can call this advisory service. They can just zoom in and advise what to do. And this is all sitting in this control room over here. This, I think, facility costed them 25 to 30 million euro to build, and this is one of many what they have built. So the agriculture already is moving in a completely different platform in agriculture. When I look at the infrastructure in China, even in the small villages, when I look at the information spread through WeChat, WeApp, uniform platforms, when I look at the speed to the market, high-speed rails in China, roads, infrastructure, the farm produce getting to the towns, I think it's very, very easy. Why I'm saying we all should be careful, and I think these are the areas I think also to learn from China, how advanced digitization, how advanced mechanization, how advanced infrastructure is in there as well. Good. I think I'm almost coming to the end of my presentation over here. Now, success factors and passion, I wouldn't call a success as such. I mean, yes, I have been okay going around the world, but what have been some of those things? And this, my family, my son, he's 23 years old, doing his PhD in Germany right now in astrophysics. That's what he does. Nothing to do with agriculture. He has been born in England, brought up primary and middle school in Americas, did his high school in Germany, did his master's in UK, and now in Germany. I mean, completely international one, but speaks fluent Marathi. Yeah, that's a good thing. For me, I think always has been family and friends. My wife, everyone thanks the family, but I want to thank my wife especially because she's a trained doctor, Ayurvedic doctor. She never could make her career just because we've been moving from one place to another. Yeah, but again, very important family and friends. That I would say is the most important part. How I measure my success so far. Number two is embarrassing change. I think it's extremely important. When I first went to UK in 1993 versus where I am now, my thought process have changed, but again, not that much. Yeah, and I give you one specific example. When I came to Asia in 2016, the first seminar I attended here in the company was about digitization. How we are going to digitalize things. And since I came from Germany, Europe, and UK background, my image about Asia, and I said, well, it will never happen. Forget about it. Why we are investing? And I was wrong. Within 2 years, I realized that never say never. In Asia, it's not about the farmer size. It's all about the convenience. When the farmers get the convenience through the technology, I think things can happen. It's not the other way around. The technology works for us. Using the technology, I talk about it. Trust and delight. Yeah, trust I talked about a little bit before, but very, very important in my so many years of journey. Even though when I go to Germany, I meet my neighbors, I go to US, everywhere. All these relations are there only because of trust. And the delight, I want to talk about one thing is I listen to one speaker, and if you get a chance, go to YouTube. His first name is similar as me, Avi, A-V-I, Liran, L-I-R-A-N. And this guy talks about a delight. And one thing what he talks, I think, has been resonating with me. He says, it's written, if you meet any person in the front and on the back, there is only two words written, delight me. Everyone wants to be delighted. When I meet you, you want me to delight you, to say something good, to say something that will. No one wants me to come and criticize you or to call you names or to do that. If we remember that in every walk of life, whomever we meet and wherever we go, that it's written on everyone's t-shirt that delight me, and if we act that way, I would say the business would become very, very smooth for us. The other principle I say here is I always avoid discussion about politics and religion, and that's what I have done. I've lived in many countries and I meet many customers. These are the two topics I always avoid. Mentoring new generation, I mean, we will talk about it later. That's one of the reasons I really joined this forum, because I feel that there are a few stories, experiences I can share and people can learn about it. And the diversity and inclusion, I have one slide quickly to talk about this one. Ashwin, 5 minutes or 8?
Now, yeah, we're just about 8 minutes. So
Okay,
There is a queue. There are questions. Ne?
Yeah.
Sure. So I wanted to share one thing. Yeah, deep within heart, just trust me. And I have lived in small places, big places, and many countries. Every culture and every human being wishes good for another. I have never ever had any bad experiences. Number two, I would say, as teams and cultures as we are, let's be vulnerable. Many a times I also feel like that I should not be vulnerable because that would show my weakness. But trust me that if we show the vulnerability, there will be a help not there. Taking a risk, yeah, being flexible. I never, and that's a fact, I was never so intelligent to go to MIT or to go to any other school over there. But I think one of the biggest things what I have done is I have been very flexible. I have taken risks to move from one place to another, and I have been rewarded. Yeah, I think I will skip those things in the interest of time. Now, this is my university, Balasaheb Savan Kokan Krishi Vidyapit, Dapoli, Ratnagiri. That's where I did my bachelor's and my master's, and I'm grateful to all the professors, all friends, for really everything. What I really want to say on lessons learned in my life is be unconventional. If I had, hello, can you just mute yourself, whoever is talking? Yeah, please. Thank you. Unconventional, yeah. Are we good? Yeah, okay. I could have decided not to go to agriculture college, and I would have decided to pursue something else. Maybe I would have been successful, but I wanted to be unconventional, yeah. As I said, going to agricultural college from Mumbai, and that was one of the biggest and the best decisions I took in my entire life. Following my heart. Following heart is also was agriculture. Following my heart when I moved from one place to another. Just to share one small story, moving from US, well settled, my house is in the US, in North Carolina. I think moving to Germany from there was a very difficult decision. But I discussed it with my family, with my wife, with my son, and we followed our heart. And we said, look, we will get another experience in life if we move to Germany. And I think we never regretted that. Being flexible, keeping the right attitude, I think these are very important, and more and above, I think respect for the humanity, that will take us long ways. But the most important thing, and that sometimes I couldn't do always, is be purposeful. Because when I graduated, my father retired at the same year. So for me, the most important purpose of my life was to find a job, because there was a family to be fed. Yeah? I think the current generation, probably our children and many people, do not have that issue. So I think they can be more purposeful, and I would like them to be more daring. In my opinion, I tell always my son that, look, till age of 35, do whatever you want. You'll never go wrong. And even if you go wrong, so what? And last but not least, being entrepreneurial. I could never be that myself. I always worked in the company, and I'm still working. But I would have liked to be entrepreneur, and not just, earning a salary and being myself, but give a job to 25 more people. That would be more enriching, more fulfilling for me. But unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I hope now through this forum, we can create some more entrepreneurs here.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's my last slide, again, coming from, life is all about balance. And this is about BASF. And I think I would end up the presentation with this one. It's about finding the right balance for the success, what we call about the farmers, agriculture. And most importantly, it's not about us only. It's also about the future generations. We should keep that in mind in all the walks of our life. Thank you, Anand, I think, and everyone.
Thank you,
That's
everyone.
all from my side.
Having said excellent presentation, but he forgot to mention that he's also excellent musician, and he plays a lot of musical instruments. I know that. Okay. Over to Ashwin, please. Ashwin.
Sure. So, Avinash, many thanks. Very insightful, particularly one of the things you mentioned, that on the supply chain side for the farmer, it's very eye-opening that they have to purchase retail and sell it all wholesale. So thanks for sharing that and so many other insights. Given that, how would you like the Q&A to be? Would you like me to read out the questions to you, or you want to take a look at the ones coming up on the
If we
chat
have time,
session
just
to address it.
can we just invite them to read questions quickly? Is it possible?
Sure, then I
Yeah.
can just read out some names and I'll suggest they speak out their own question. So give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll just take a quick look.
And be concise in asking questions, please. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Vivek here, Avinash, fantastic. So this is the real story.
Vivek.
This journey has been inspirational. I personally to me, and I'm sure many would really look forward to what you have gathered as the pollen grains to make honey. I would put it that way. So keep it up, and we will, with this forum, we will definitely be in a position to make that honey for all of us. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vivek. So I would like to reach out to Ashutosh Pavaskar. I think he started with his questions early. So Ashutosh, you want to speak up?
Yeah, my question was very simple. When we say that robotics, what is the most important thing in agriculture that we should focus on, which would reduce the effort by manual effort by the farmers?
Yeah, Ashutosh, thanks for the question. I mean, this is a very broad question. As I said, first and foremost, I think labor availability right now is the biggest issue in agriculture everywhere. So for sure, that is one area on robotics. And I look at this as a two-way things. Yeah, one is solving the problems what currently are faced by the industry. So that is one. Labor problem is going to be always there. That's one. But then also we can also think a little bit about Steve Jobs and saying, you know, what are those things that we would like farmers not to really, they haven't thought about it, but those could be some of the areas that we can create a more value about this one. And I think Dr. Soman actually last time talked about 2 weeks ago about his robots, which I think are really taking on this phenotype and all these observations, which are going under the plant over there. Now there, the issue is not about labor. Labor is available over there, qualified people, but at the same time, you need a labor which is really good and it's available, but it's just about inconvenience, yeah, going under the corn plants and taking those observations. So that's the area that he is focusing on. So I think it's a combination of both, yeah, in my opinion. But again, third area I would say is that, look, fruit picking today, apples, tomatoes, I mean, there are technologies with robotics today available whereby the fruits are being picked by the robots. Yeah, there is no need, yeah, manual harvesting. So could be another areas.
Thanks.
Thanks. I think the next question would be from Shirish Ranganekar, if you want to.
Thanks, Ashwin. Thanks, Ashwin. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
thanks, Avinash. Excellent. It was very insightful. My question comes from affordability perspective in terms of how do the farmers in India and Indonesia find it affordable to adopt this technology, and do you expect that the government would have subsidies in terms of, you know, the ones that are given, and is this going to be a subsidy model, or is this going to be something that can be leveraged by other means like microfinance or anything? What is the way to go forward with these things for in terms of adoption and affordability?
Yeah, no, fantastic, Shirish. Thank you. Great question. And I again go back to China and give an example of drones. The drone technology is wholly predicated on convenience, but also about what more can it offer. Yeah. So one, I think finding a labor, I think is first of all not possible. Even if you find it costs 15 euros per hectare to apply fertilizer or to spray. That's the ballpark number here. Yeah? So when the drone technology first came, the 15 euros was a kind of a saving targeted in this model. But then who would give a 15 euros discount to the farmer? That was not possible. So the model, the way it was done is that the government stepped in because government knew that this can be more sustainable way to increase the drone use. The industry stepped in, and also the drone manufacturers stepped in. And end of the day, what happened is that somehow there was a model which is developed by one third. Everyone subsidized this. And then the value proposition for the farmer was not only convenience, but saying, look, I mean, initially you can also save the 15 euros per hectare application fee. Now, once this technology has picked up on 20,000 hectares or even more right now, the cost of application actually by drones has come down from 15 to 10. And now farmers, once they are seeing the advantage, they're saying, look, I don't mind paying 10 euros per hectare because I really don't want to find the labor. So initial stage, it has to be a government, corporate, and the manufacturer partnerships.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for you, Avinash. We are at the top of the hour. Do you still have a few more minutes to address questions? We have quite a few questions
I'm
up
fine.
there.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And Anand, be okay on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
I think so.
Sure. In that case, we'll continue. We have Prashant Watkar, I think, as the next person who had a question. Prashant, you want to go ahead?
Yes. So, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Sure.
Yes.
Hello there. So, my question is basically looking at all this, the new tech and the way we can do agriculture as a business. What would be some of your advice to somebody like me who wants to be a farmer, a high-tech farmer, who wants to use all the technologies, but of course with the limited resources? So, would be some of your advice? I know my question is already very vague, but try and do it, or maybe we can connect separately for that.
Yeah. Good question.
No, I think it's a great question, and that's why I think this question is very difficult to answer, because you can ask me why I haven't been a farmer myself, and I talk about farming so much. That's also true. I think first of all, you need to see what you are passionate about. Now, if you want to go in the urban farming, if you really want to do, these are the technologies evolving. One trend, I think Dr. Godge here can advise you on that one. Yeah, if you really want to try something, for me, and I give my example, in a situation like you, if I have a couple of acres of land, I would try to do some horticultural farming over there. You have family and friends whereby you can supply that produce from there, guaranteed, where you can trace and say, look, this is from this farm, I can trace everything, I can give it to you. That way you already create your customer base and then invest, yeah, see how that goes. Those would be some of my ideas, yeah. But I would also say, please reach out to, I think, Dr. Damle over here, who is extremely well connected in India. Yeah, please reach out to him. He can advise you a lot better than I.
Yeah, no worries. More than welcome anytime. So,
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the answer, and I'll definitely get in.
Thanks to both Vivek and Avinash. And now I think the next one would be Keith. Keith, if you're on the line.
I sure am. There's been a great trend in agriculture after World War II. Rural to urban migration, people getting off the farms consolidating. Will the shift to robotics, artificial intelligence, drones, etc., continue that consolidation, number one? And number two, how does that play out when it comes to the subsistence farmers? As farms consolidate, does that put more pressure on the peasant farmers?
Yeah. Keith, I think great question over here. So I think number one, to answer your question, consolidation, definitely it will happen. And not only that, what I have seen, there are many companies who are typically non-ag companies who are investing into this. Boeing is heavily invested. Google is invested in agriculture. Microsoft is investing in agriculture. So the future farming I see is mostly going to be data-driven, combination of data-driven farming with robotics and everything. And of course, I think the current startups and many companies, they will also consolidate. Where the farming is going, for example, in the US and Brazil and Europe as well right now, is just to give one short example. Most of the times you are spreading fertilizers or spraying, or you are seeding over there. But let's give an example from spraying. Today, now the farming is going to the high throughput identification of the weeds on the farm and spraying. So it's no more a blanket spraying. You may already aware these technologies will evolve, that there will be cameras set on your spray rig over there, and it will be really a normal way the spray rig will move in the farm, but not everything will be sprayed. The only problem areas will be covered. So I think this is where the farming definitely will go in Brazil, in the US in next 5 years. I'm convinced. Asking about subsistence farming, I think, yes, this is a big question. Now, if this would happen, would then small farmers survive in Indonesia, in India, and what would happen? My only hope for that one is that, look, I mean, today also there is a big difference between how the farming is in Western world versus in the developing world, and these farmers are surviving. But these farmers, or I would say these countries, will also upgrade themselves with the technologies. Many of these drones and other things fit better on smaller farming than the bigger farm. So I think the only way to survive is to upgrade, to digitize these farms, in my opinion.
Just to add here with to Avinash's this thing, this is where, when I mentioned in my talk, whenever 2-3 weeks back, it's the business model which is going to decide the success, and be it a small farmer or a big farmer, ultimately, if you are serving the customer better, I think I don't see any issue in terms of that. There will have to be consolidation for economies of scale, but customer centricity will be the driver, as Avinash has mentioned.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vivek. I think Anand had a question next. Anand, if you want to go ahead.
Some other Anand, not me.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Avinash. Very great presentation, and thanks for walking us through your journey. Really interesting. I mean, coming from a small place, I grew up in Latur in Marathwada, studied in Mumbai, and now I'm based in Chicago. So I can relate to some of the stuff that, and I have a medical background, MBBS doctor, but what I have been observing, and part of, I think, the previous speaker, Keith, he has a question. But my question is somewhere along the same line. With the advent of automation, how do we make sure that we are balancing the growth, the prosperity that we are bringing to all, say, third world countries or developing countries like India, and also try to balance the ethical sustainability as well as ecological impact, soil quality? What I have seen last 20 years, yes, we have, at least when I compare India to Western world, we have technology, we use the technology, but we always bring the Indian flavor. So how do you think, of course, one of the commenters mentioned that drastic policy change is required, but do you, and also others can chime in also, do you foresee any such change in our policy as well as the holistic view of looking at things? I mean, I practice Vipassana meditation, and there's a center in Rockford, Illinois, and I was shocked that we could not use the water from the soil because it's all polluted with nitrates. I mean, and I can see that happening in down the line 10 years in India. So what's your take on that? Thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a big question. I think everyone can add a few things. First of all, I agree with you. I think agriculture as such over the last few decades has been really not been very sustainable. Yeah, we see the deforestation issues in Amazon or everywhere else. We look at the rampant use of certain technologies which are not. My hope right now, I think, based on the entire policies worldwide, if you look at EPA, how they are acting now on other, especially under Biden administration, right now they are already ordered a review of some of the practices over there. If you look at Europe, which is actually taking the lead on every single thing, I quoted some examples like Thailand and Vietnam. Yeah, I quoted example of China or India. I think the awareness is there. I think that's the good start. Yeah, that things cannot continue like that. Now, in my opinion, with the precision application, with the digitization, I think we are going to see more and more less sustainable practices, or I would say more sustainable practices. Yeah. So this is where it will be happening, because now we will be able to trace and we will be able to track as to what is going on going forward. If the carbon footprint, what I talked about, trading carbon, I think this becomes a reality. I think this is going to be for the industry. This is also going to be for the farmers. This is going to be everyone. But again, I never talk politically, but here let me make one comment which is not political. But I hope I can make this comment. I talked a lot about China. And the success in China is driven by top-down policies. And that's how the agriculture has transformed in China. Either you can have a model like United States where there is a complete freedom, but freedom in a sense whereby I think the entrepreneurs can actually thrive and survive without much of a red tape. Or you can have a policy like China where I think everything is top down. I think in between, I share your concerns as well as to where it will lead.
Okay. I think we are, Ashwin, we have
Sure.
2 more minutes.
So
We have 2 more minutes, I think.
we're at the very end of it. What we can do is we still have a few more questions. We'll just take one more question, and after that we'll close out. But rest of the questions which have yet to be answered, if you can just let Anand know through email and send it to garzemarathi@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We can address it offline for you. So sorry about that given the time situation. So with that, would Sachin, would you like to have your question addressed now? Sachin Shenvid, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sachin is not there, I think.
Yeah,
he's there. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Sachin. We'll make this a last question then.
Yeah. Avinash, it was really good to hear you and the technological advantage what farming, what it gives to the farming community. But being from India, I have a little concern because I have worked with the farmers in the field. If you see my take on the farming community, if you go and ask any of the farming community as to if their next generation would like to continue the farming, the answer is a big no. So how do we change? How do we change that trend? Because there has to be some kind of an interest developed within the farming community and with the farmers' family, so that those people stay in the villages and there is no migration from the villages to the cities. Because what happens once the migration starts, your unemployment thing comes, everything is related. So the farmers and the farming community stays in the villages and continues doing their farming. I don't think there will be any employment issues going forward. Yeah, use of technology is absolutely fine, excellent. It has to be used. You have to use your old techniques, you have to use your new techniques, combine both and do it agriculture. I am a passionate agriculturist. I come from an agricultural family. Unfortunately, the land portion has gone with the government rule set. But still, I am a passionate agriculturist. I do interact with a lot of farmers, but I don't see that that spark in their family members or their next generation, which will make them stay back home and do agriculture. Technology is there to be used once they are convinced that yes, I have to do agriculture. So how do we change that? And there is an addition to it, and how affordable it will be, because most of the farmers in India and in Asian countries would be the marginal farmers. They don't have a big land holding. Yes, those who have big land, or there is a corporatization of farming or societies, I do understand. But with marginal farmers, how this technology can be implemented and how can it be made affordable? Thank you.
Yeah. No, again, thanks a lot.
Can I add this question, because my next question is also related to this one. I know that we are too late, but if you Anandji and Avinash allow, I can
please carry on. Please carry on.
Please.
So I'm just I'm adding more to this stuff only. I'm also farmer family. My father is farmer. I wish to be, but my question was, you just give an example on the New Zealand that their farm. These people are building the value chain and they're competing each other, but the things are the different at our area. If you are starting with poultry, everyone will start poultry, not the allied value. We are not building around that. Or even though you mentioned, Dr. Damle mentioned one point that how we can be the market centric or customer centric. You mentioned that how we can do only way to the survive is the digitalization. Or so adding to the Sachin, how this can be addressed? How is it something of policy, or is it the cultural difference? and what the forum like the Garje Marathi can contribute in this?
I think what you came in a conclusion, so both I can show you and Sachin, I think great questions, but I think what you came, this forum, I think should really answer these questions. For me, I would be very honest. I mean, I travel to India 3-4 times a year, but I haven't lived in India for a long time, but I still talk to a lot of farmers. Let me just take 2 or 3 minutes to answer the question and maybe you can talk. So I think first going to your question, I have had the same experiences, Sachin. I was in Saurashtra and there was one farmer who farms 50 hectares, extremely profitable farming, yeah, over there. And I was talking to him and I can send you my picture with him. And I said, look, what are you going to do? And he said, I want to move to the city. I said, why? You're making money, you're doing fine. He said, look, I will not get married if I farm. So there are some social issues in India, yeah, marrying to a farmer. I mean, these are the things which are there, we must acknowledge, number one. Number two, I would say bringing small things, small businesses. And this is where I see personally, I couldn't do much in my life. I would have liked to be an entrepreneur, and I would like to create some kind of an industry locally or some kind of an agricultural enterprise, which is a customer focused, very special kind of an agriculture. Giving an example, one of my best friends, I think he is 2 years junior to me. His name is Gangurde. I can introduce him to the forum. I already have. He owns one of the biggest poultry farms in Maharashtra. And he is advising many people on how to start your successful poultry business at the village level. Yeah. So what we really need to do in this forum is exactly ideas like this. How can we create industry locally? How can we have a different type of farming? It's not just growing tomatoes because this region grows tomatoes, but there could be something that can be done which is so special and can be marketed. I cannot answer the question how,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I can come in. This is precisely where our Prime Minister has mentioned that he wants to set up 10,000 farmer producer companies. So the approach there is cluster based, and means each activity can be a cluster in a district itself or 4-5 talukas, and means it will give the specialization angle to it as well, plus economies of scale, and market and credit linkages would be easy. So there are things which are being looked at, and hopefully they will be operational soon, so that we all as a Garje Marathi forum also can contribute in that.
Absolutely.
We are looking forward to that, sir.
Sachin, Sheni, stay connected. Your question was nice.
Yeah.
I don't think we are connected on Garje Marathi platform, but we should stay connected.
Given that we are close to the end now, Anand, would you like to have last words, and we can close soon if it's okay with Avinash and everybody?
Thanks a lot, Avinash. Actually, you said it is your journey, but the journey really covered everything that one should, how one should look at agriculture, how one was looking at agriculture in past, as well as how one should look at agriculture in the future. So it was nicely worded and really informative. And with that, I really felt that this sort of workshops or your lecture can be a workshop to the agriculture universities also around Maharashtra. With that,
whenever Avinash is next, I will make sure that that happens, at least depending on his time.
Correct, exactly. So I thank everybody for joining us, and together we can make the motto or our dream of making India, or Maharashtra in particular, where we are concentrating agriculturally, digitalized agriculture or modern agriculture that we can do. Thank you very much. And with this, I request everybody to sign off, and I'm ending the meeting.